Welcome to Analysis in Chains with Nathan and Neil. Happy Friday, everybody. Nathan here. Hi, Neil. How was your week? No, is that hello? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can. Yeah, it was like I couldn't hear you through the music. All's good over here, Nathan. Looking forward to today's show on Dash. It's going to be a fun
I
one.
heard you had a day off today.
Yeah, I took a day off and wanted to make the most of fall and feel happy and glorious in peace. Yeah, and just to take a mental crypto break, which has been interesting, but then I need my fix. So I'm here talking to you again.
Yeah, that's the best way to spend a day. Um, we've got T-5 days until the hard fork for Bitcoin Gold. Are you excited?
Man, I am pumped. This is going to be probably the most exciting month of the year in crypto because we have this Bitcoin Gold fork, which is controversial. Then we have a Cigarette 2X fork coming up in November. Again, controversial. And Bitcoin is now about to hit $6,000. Controversial. And then it's anyone's guess what's going to happen in a month's time. It could be down to 3,000. It could be up to 12,000. We'll see.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous about this, but I mean, I don't exactly have a horse in the race. Like I'm too nervous to actually buy more Bitcoins. So I've got my 3 Satoshis just sitting in a Bittrex wallet there.
Nice. But I have to buy Bitcoin definitely and open up a Bitcoin wallet. I have other wallets, but just not a Bitcoin one because I just want to see what happens. I want to go through the ride of the forks and see how my Bitcoin wallet handles it.
It's definitely going to be a ride to remember. So when is that? That's coming up 5 days. That'll be Wednesday.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Christmas. It's like Christmas before Christmas.
So I guess we can. I guess we can have a fun show about that on.
Live.
Yeah, we're counting down. Oh my gosh! It'll either. Well, I think it's one of two ways. I don't think it'll be meh. I think it's going to either be to the moon or to the floor.
That's very extreme. I'm gonna go with meh.
Meh?
Yeah.
You think you're going to go with meh?
Yeah, I think little will happen on the 25th, but the closer we get to the Segwit 2X one, I think people could get nervous. So that's when it will be very exciting.
Other news before we get into our main event. I saw that Stellar Lumen and IBM have a partnership.
Yeah.
You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, more signs of corporations getting more involved. Of course, Stellar Lumen's price shot up 100% on the news.
Only.
Only. Yeah, only 100%. Disappointing. But it's, again, what makes me excited is the fact that we have more corporations getting involved, and that can only help the development of blockchain in the future. So it's great news. Well done, Stellar Lumen, and I can't wait to hear more about it.
We should, when we post this episode, we should tag them in our tweets or whatever. How do you hashtag the tweet thing? I sound like an old man here.
Yeah, you are.
How
an
do
old
you
man.
social network? Kids and your technology.
Yeah, we'll give them a high five on Twitter. Just let them know we're thinking of them.
Yeah, that's great. And it's an interesting piece. Maybe we'll have a better chance to talk about it on Monday about Tezos, eh? Some drama.
This is so interesting what's going on. In a way, it was bound to happen in such an unregulated market. These things are going to happen when you've owners who can really do anything with the money that they can get. We all knew what we were signing up for with these ICOs, but it's an important development because we'll see how the market reacts. We'll see how countries react as well, and we'll see how Tezos gets out of this. So to me, it's fascinating.
Yeah, for those who don't know, essentially what's going on with Tezos is they raised $200 million worth of crypto. And the way it's set up, it's in Switzerland, held by a nonprofit. And there's a conflict between the people that founded Tezos and the head of the nonprofit in Switzerland. And so no one knows what's going to happen with the project, with the money. It's a big drama. So it's exciting to watch. And I mean, when you got this much money at stake, obviously stuff is on the line. We'll see how it develops, and maybe this will give us a platform to talk a little bit more about how ICOs are structured when we come to Monday's show. However, today we're going to be talking about Dash. First of all, Dash news. Apparently, Dash was just listed on Binance. So congratulations,
Oh, wow.
Dash.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a big step. Congratulations to them. I went on the Dash subreddit and I said hi to all the people. I put up a questionnaire, asked people to fill it out, asked my questions about Dash, did some research. We read the white paper. It's an exciting project, and so we'll tell you a little bit about that. We'll get into how it works and what's interesting about the project, where it differs from the other cryptocurrencies we've seen. I guess to get started, what is Dash? Dash is a fork, essentially, of Bitcoin. It was forked originally. Actually, that's not quite true. It was forked from Litecoin back in 2014, and Litecoin was a fork of Bitcoin. So when we're talking about these Bitcoin forks that are going on that are exciting, I guess in a way this has been going on for quite a while now. That people see the differences in opinion in which direction they want the cryptocurrency to go, and a group of them will split off and just fork the project, which means to make an exact copy of it and then start developing in a new direction. And so that's what Dash did. And they wanted to, I guess, increase the number of transactions that could be dealt with and increase security, change the way the backend runs, and so far it's been fairly successful. It went from trading around $2 per coin when it was starting out to, I think
it's $2.90 now. That's a big jump. Yeah.
$2.90. Yeah, so that's a pretty big jump. So. What's your thoughts, Neil? What did you find out when you were researching?
Yeah, I find it very interesting in terms of its positioning. It started off called the Dark Coin, which wasn't great for branding because it sounded like something that a lot of drug lords would use. So they changed it to Dash, which yeah.
All good. All the really good projects are.
So they changed it to Dash. But what I like about this coin is its usability in terms of the speed and the transaction cost. And this is where it's really differentiated from Bitcoin and other Bitcoin forks that are out there. So it is very practical. Again, practical like Ripple. But the thing is, you are having to sacrifice some of the decentralized elements. Now, when I say decentralized elements, some people say that Dash is centralized and stuff like this, and you could argue that, but it's down to the fact that, well, if you want to have crypto that's fast and effective, well, then Dash definitely fits that solution. But then in the crypto world, there are people who just want to have digital cash, and then there are people who want to have purely decentralized cash. And many people feel that it doesn't really fit the decentralized model, mainly down to its masternodes. And the thing about its masternodes is that really helps it work very effectively in terms of speed. You also have a more secure options. I think it's instant secure. Is that what it is? I forget the name of the. You can because the thing is, in Bitcoin, it's a lot more public in terms of where the money moves around. But in Dash, you have the option to be more secretive, so people don't see you moving money around. But you have to pay a fee for that. And so this is what's unique about Dash. It offers those elements that Bitcoin doesn't have, but it kind of sacrifices the whole decentralized ideology by having these masternodes.
It's interesting. Like, it took me a little bit to try and wrap my head around the technology, because that's what I've been trying to do. And I don't know if I'm just tired this week or distracted, but I found it difficult with Dash because it seems to be not doing one thing. It seems to be doing two. So there's a two-tiered system, first of all. Right? So the Dash operates with a proof of work transaction record, just like very similar to blockchain, Ethereum, like all of the other proof of work that we've talked about, where it will keep track of transactions in a ledger. Proof of work is done in order to build the next block, and the winner is rewarded with a certain amount of Dash. However, on top of that, they've got a proof of stake system known as the masternodes that Neil talked about. And the masternodes aren't there just for no reason. They perform integral functions of the Dash network. So they allow instant transactions where you don't want to wait for the next block to be formed. They allow for private send. So they perform these functions. They also allow for voting. And yeah, it is a frequent criticism that that the masternodes perhaps may make it less centralized. You talk to the Dash community, and they say that that's not true. And it's interesting. I don't know enough. I only know what I've learned about. I know that there are 4,500 masternodes. That it costs 1,000 Dash to stake a masternode, and anyone with 1,000 Dash can do it. So essentially, when the criticism comes up that it could end up being more centralized, the idea is that the people that got Dash early could have staked the majority of those masternodes, or someone could come along and buy up enough Dash to take control of the masternode network. It's possible. It's expensive, though. Very expensive to do that. With 4,500 masternodes, you're talking 50% plus 1 to 4.5 million Dash, which is a couple $2 billion, right? So yeah, it's a challenge. A government can do it if they really want.
But I feel like this is the trade-off to have features like private send and instant send. So it's private send. I was trying to remember earlier on, and the thing is, I like these features in Dash, private send and instant send. But the thing is, and we often have this conversation about the ideal cryptocurrency, and we see what's happening with Bitcoin, is that I feel like the market will ultimately decide, okay, to what extent do we want to have things decentralized in our cryptocurrencies? Could masternodes be the type of model that could help a lot of these cryptocurrencies succeed? Because yes, you need to have, there is a potential opportunity for some people to make a lot more money out of Dash, because you have those who are mining the coins, and then the masternodes get 10% of those earnings. And I know some people can say, well, you have a case there where the rich get richer, poor get poorer. But the thing is, you have a functioning cryptocurrency that can be used in real world today compared to most other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And I think that these are the conversations that could become more important over time when people start to discuss what is the aspect, what is decentralization, like to what extent do we want to go there, because it's so difficult to have this very socialistic model for a cryptocurrency. And I know it's ideal because you want to have like a currency for the people, and there's no big centralized system, no one's owning the blockchain or the cryptocurrency and making changes that will benefit them. But I think that maybe people will have to do some trade-offs, and I think Dash is an interesting one. And it's what's so curious about it is that if this starts to prevail, I think it's increased 400% compared to Bitcoin this year. So there is some appetite for this type of cryptocurrency. Now, will it beat Bitcoin? We don't know. As someone said, Bitcoin is forking itself to death, which I thought was summing up things at the moment. So I think it's definitely one to look out for because it has some very interesting features and could make it very usable if in the next few years.
I want to touch on a couple of things because Dash is a Bitcoin fork, ultimately. A Litecoin fork, yes, but ultimately a Bitcoin fork. It is at odds a little bit with the Bitcoin community. And when you hear things like decentralization, they've almost become a bit like a buzzword. Like people want decentralization, but the question is why? And what I found is that when you hear a criticism of decentralization, I've heard that more from people that aren't in the Dash community than from people in the Dash community themselves. Because when I went in and started asking, I didn't see that word used a lot. But what I did see was people interested in sort of going after the ideals of a cryptocurrency that's, easy to use for payment, can be private if you choose. And so they talked around the reasons why you would want decentralization. If you remember from, I guess, previous shows, we talked about this, or if you've ever seen the movie.
Yeah, Banking on Bitcoin. Yeah, on Netflix. Very good. Very good.
On Netflix that I watched. Yeah. The reason they really liked at the beginning this decentralization option was because they didn't want their cryptocurrency being taken control of, or someone monitoring their payments, or someone being able to hack the network. They didn't want to rely on trusting of any one entity. And in a sense, even if you've got a group of masternodes, you don't necessarily have to trust any one entity, because the way the governance structure has been built up around Dash, it's not like you have to trust all the masternodes. You still do have to have the community come in and vote on various issues, and there has to be some sort of security to prevent, basically a central government or some motivated, very, very rich person from buying up all the Dash as their life's goal. But in essence, as long as there's a modicum of security there, it does seem to meet those criteria. And I think that's probably more important than the specific buzzword. I mean, look at Bitcoin. How decentralized is it really? You've got three main companies that are controlling the mining power, right? I mean, other people can mine, but how decentralized is it in the end if you can't compete with a large company running?
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's as I'm saying, it's all about trade-off. And while the masses come into crypto land, if you want to call it that, I'd be curious to see to what extent they care about this, because the ideology behind decentralization is central to the civil war we see in Bitcoin. And I'm curious, when the masses come in, do they really care about that enough, or do they just want to have the cryptocurrencies that is most used for them to go about their daily lives? And so this is why the market dynamics are so interesting, because while you go from people on the fringes and people who are more idealistic, and you bring in the masses who are just more practical minded, it's going to be very interesting to see which cryptocurrencies prevail, and whether it's down to the sense of decentralization, or is it down to sense of practicality.
Exactly. I mean, right now, every cryptocurrency out there, with the exception of Bitcoin, is operating primarily with a core group of people who understand the technology, who believe in it, and who are really focused primarily on one coin. And it's the same with Dash. When I go and ask at Dash Pay subreddit on Reddit, the people who take time to respond to me are most of their crypto is Dash. They're primarily invested in one, and this makes sense, because if you're an early adopter, then you believe in the project. If you're probably not a day trader. And one person mentioned to me that Dash really discourages day trading with the way it's incentivized, like because of the masternode. The masternode setup, people are sort of incentivized to hold on to thousands of coins at a time. So it's less likely people are going to do day trading with something like that. It's interesting in that respect, like what sort of incentives end up being coming out of the way the system is structured. I wanted to mention the governance structure just to change the subject slightly, because when I asked what subjects people wanted me to talk about, everyone mentioned governance. Everyone. And I found it very interesting because it really is a sort of a decentralized autonomous organization. It's one way of implementing a decentralized organization where you don't have sort of one guy calling the shots. And I don't know if did you look
I
at this
didn't
at
get
all?
into the governance side of things. As you know, I'm more about the practicality. So yeah, tell me about the governance.
Absolutely. All right. Well, essentially, what it is a certain percentage the of the block rewards are sort of put into a treasury fund, like a tax. Okay, and then everyone who owns a masternode has the ability to vote on what is done with the funds, including hiring developers, including it's all done by voting. And so, yeah, it's fascinating. So if you have 1,000 Dash and you go, okay, well, I'm now a masternode owner. Now I can vote in how this treasury fund is spent. Should we do an event over here? If we sponsor this event, what should we do? And people will list projects on the Dash forum, and they vote. They have a formula like yes votes minus no votes, and if that's greater than the number of masternodes that have voted for it, then it goes through. And if there's too many projects and not enough funds, then it's just they're put in a ranked order, and the ones that are at the top end up being executed. It's
Actually,
absolutely
to be honest with you,
fascinating.
that explains a lot.
So
Because whenever I would, say, visit the main dash.org website or go on the YouTube videos, I always wonder where the money came from. Because whenever you go to, say, websites of other, blockchains and cryptocurrencies, there doesn't seem to be that many employees or many people behind the project. And I often wonder where the money comes from that can support all of this. And but in Dash, it always seemed to be like a mini company, and I could never understand where the money came from. And so that makes a lot of sense. But on saying that, are you not depending on employed people to sustain the development of a cryptocurrency? Whereas I believe in Bitcoin, it's people freely give their time to help with the development of Bitcoin. So that's a very interesting difference. And on one hand, I like the idea that we know that there's going to be funds there to help with the development of Dash. It kind of becomes a sustainable development model, which is very good. Whereas in Bitcoin, it's really hoping for the goodwill of the community, and those passionate about the project really would give free time. So with Dash, it kind of helps when you're investing in Dash to think, okay, it has really good potential long term because it has a sustainable model. But at the same time, when the masses come in and more people want to use it, it's like, will they be happy with this sort of governance structure? Will it still make sense when adoption is increased by 10x or 100x over the next few years? Will this model be too rigid when things get bigger, when scalability becomes a bigger issue? And we can't answer that now, but this will be a very interesting feature, because could that governance model hold it back? And that's something just to bear in mind.
well, maybe, but I mean, it just with the way it's grown so far. It's 10% of the block rewards that go to the treasury. So back in September 2015, that was $14,000 a month approximately. Now, actually, as of May 2017, I'm just on Wikipedia here, it's
That's a lot.
650,000 a month. So that's quite a lot of money. And the thing is, there's sort of a positive feedback loop. So the more money they get, the more they can buy developers, which has more the effect of increasing the value of Dash, because more people are being paid in Dash, and then more people are building on Dash and making it better. And then, of course, right now it's it's a blockchain coin, but people are developing a smoother payment system for it. It's called Evolution, and essentially it's a more usable framework for people to use it as use Dash as a payment system for merchants, for for customers, for clients. It has a light wallet since instead of just a node wallet. So, I mean, you really do need a light wallet if you're going to be a payment system.
And there's something I noticed about Dash is that there are many payment companies, like crypto companies, that offer Dash cards. So it's like a Visa card, except you have Dash on it, and then you can pay for things through this card. So Dash really seems to be pushing on the practicality of the cryptocurrency. Just going back to your point, and I think that could help adoption, and I think that's why we've seen it grow so much compared to Bitcoin this year. And so I'm very curious, because I think the next 2-3 years you could see it really grow, because not many cryptocurrencies are positioned similar to Dash, and I'm very, very curious. Like it makes me enthusiastic about cryptocurrencies to see cryptocurrencies like Dash, because it's practical, because it can help with adoption, because Bitcoin people hold, but Dash people can use. So I'm very positive about it, but I kind of feel like there's an inkling there, like 2-3 years time, I would love to reassess before I would actually invest, just to see how it's going.
We didn't talk about this beforehand, Neil, but I'm curious anyway.
I did indeed. Good call. Good call indeed. So it is very, very interesting, because there are not many cryptocurrencies that can actually beat Dash in the BitCoffee index. So it gets a 76% rating in the BitCoffee index, primarily because its transaction fee is quite low, 17 cents. If you compare that to Bitcoin, which is $3 at the moment, so that's a big change. And its processing time.
Is that average? Because,
yeah.
Like, do the fees change?
The fees
I didn't look
fluctuates like all of them, but it is quite consistent. It doesn't vary widely compared to other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So it's quite consistent around about the 15 to 20 cent mark. And in terms of timing, like at the moment, the Bitcoin block time is 8 minutes, whereas the Dash is near approximately 2.5 minutes. So that's why it rates so well in the BitCoffee index. It's better than Monero, which I really, really like in terms of speed and transaction fees. The likes of Ripple obviously has a better BitCoffee index because of how it's structured. But again, that's a very, very different model in cryptocurrencies, and naturally there's a lot of trade-offs there. And a lot of people don't see it as a real, I guess, decentralized currency for various reasons. But then again, that's what we're saying. You need to make trade-offs in order to make a cryptocurrency practical. So it gets 76%, whereas Bitcoin at the moment is at 27% because of its scalability issues, shall we say. So yeah, it's it's well positioned for adoption. So we'll see if people do start using it on a regular basis.
Did you look at Instant Pay at all? Because
I didn't see I couldn't find the prices. All I know is that it can really reduce the transaction time down to seconds. But I couldn't find the variable that could help me determine, does it matter if you're transferring $1,000 or $1.50? Because obviously if you use Instant Pay for $1.50, it could end up being $1.50, and then therefore that just ruins the whole point of using it for a coffee. Whereas I'm unsure if I were to transfer $1,000 and I use Instant Pay, that the $1.50 transaction fee actually isn't much at all. So that's the part I couldn't find. So I'm assuming that it's not something you use for coffee.
Someone suggested that I just download the testnet and test my own transactions, and I was totally going to do it. Random internet stranger, I was totally going to do it. I just ran out of time for the show, but I do promise that I wanted to. All right, we should probably wrap up the show. Neil, predictions for the future. What do you think about where Dash is going? Are you to the moon, or?
I think that's a very good question. I think it could go halfway to the moon. I know that's a vague answer. I think that short term, next 2-3 years, it could do well. But if if cryptocurrencies are really taken off in a crazy way and there hasn't been a huge correction in the next 2-3 years, then I would want to reassess just to see how it's handling the changes in market when the masses come in and your more industrial investors come in. Because I do think it has great use, but there's so many cryptocurrencies coming out there. Someone could position themselves just to be like Dash with a new feature, and they could, beat Dash to it. So, short 2-3 years, I think it's going to do very well. But after that, I would need to reassess.
I mean, I base a lot of my confidence in a project based on the community and the feeling I get, and I got a very positive sense from the community that they're very committed to this. So it didn't feel as political as some other groups that I've been part of. So I have confidence they're going to do fine. So thank you to the Dash community for answering my questions and for listening in. And if you have any questions, comments, anything we got wrong, you want to let us know, you can visit us on Slack. Go to analysisinchains.com and sign up for our Slack. I'll send you a Slack invite. You can join us. Tell us everything you liked, everything you hated, everything. And we will send you 20 of our Neil and Nathan Analysis in Chains nutshells, our own crypto token, as a thank you. The Slack is out there. Come and join us. It'll be grand. That's our show. Thanks for tuning in to Analysis in Chains with Nathan and Neil. Check us out at analysisinchains.com, on iTunes, Podbean, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep hashing.